I, 28F, have been married to my husband Jack, 30M, for 3 years now. We live with his parents Mary, 55F, and David, 58M, in their house. This whole situation started mainly because we were trying to save money for our own place, but now I regret that decision more than anything else in my life. My childhood was never great to begin with. I lost both my parents in a car accident when I was 15, and after that, I went to live with my aunt. She was nice enough to take me in, but she already had 3 kids of her own to take care of. I never really felt like I belonged there. I was more like a guest who stayed too long. I focused on my studies, got good grades, and eventually landed a decent job at an accounting firm. I met Jack at a friend's wedding 4 years ago. He was the groom's cousin and we hit it off immediately. Jack was different from any other guy I had dated before. He was kind, understanding, and most importantly, he made me feel like I finally belonged somewhere. His family seemed perfect at first. Mary was so welcoming during our dating phase that I actually started calling her mom. David was more reserved but always polite and friendly. After dating for a year, Jack proposed and we got married in a small ceremony. We were both working entry-level jobs at the time and struggling to save money for a house deposit. That's when Mary suggested we move in with them temporarily. She said it would help us save money faster, and we could stay as long as we needed. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags even then. She was too eager to have us move in, especially her son. The problems started almost immediately after we moved in. At first, it was small things. Mary would rearrange our room when we were at work because she didn't like how I organized things. She would redo the laundry I had done because apparently I didn't fold the clothes right. She even started cooking all our meals because she said my cooking wasn't healthy enough for her son. I tried to adapt to her ways. I really did. I watched how she did things and tried to copy her methods, but nothing was ever good enough. If I cleaned the bathroom, she would point out spots I missed. If I helped with dinner, she would make comments about how her Jack wasn't used to eating such basic food. Every little thing I did was wrong in her eyes. Jack always told me to ignore it. He said his mom was just particular about how she wanted things done and that she meant well. He grew up with her being this way, so to him it was normal. But it wasn't normal to me. It was suffocating. The situation got worse when Mary started inviting Sarah over. Sarah was Jack's ex-girlfriend from college, and she lived just a few blocks away from us. Apparently, they had dated for 3 years before breaking up because Sarah wanted to focus on her career. Mary never got over their breakup. She would constantly talk about how successful Sarah had become, how she was now a senior manager at her company, and how she would have been the perfect wife for Jack. I put up with all of this because I knew it was temporary. Jack and I were saving money, and in a few months, we would have enough for a house deposit. But then I got pregnant. We had been trying for about a year, and when it finally happened, we were overjoyed. Jack was so happy he cried when I showed him the test. Even David seemed genuinely excited about becoming a grandfather. But Mary, her reaction was completely different. The moment we announced the pregnancy at family dinner, her whole demeanor changed. The fake niceness disappeared entirely. She started making snide comments about how some women get pregnant on purpose to trap men. She would tell Jack in front of me that he was too young to be a father and that he was ruining his life. She began criticizing everything about my pregnancy. If I was nauseous, she would say I was being dramatic. If I was tired, she would say I was lazy. She even started throwing out the prenatal vitamins I bought, saying they were just expensive placebos and that she had her pregnancies without any of that stuff. Then she ramped up her efforts with Sarah. She started inviting her over almost every weekend for dinner. She would make comments about how Sarah still looked so fit and slim, unlike some people who let themselves go. She would deliberately bring up memories from when Jack and Sarah were dating, talking about how perfect they were together. The final straw was my baby shower last month. I didn't even want to have it at their house, but Mary insisted. She said it would look bad if the grandmother-to-be didn't host the shower. My friends offered to host it at their place, but Mary threw such a fit that Jack convinced me to let her do it to keep the peace. The party started okay. My friends came, some of Jack's relatives were there, and even some of our co-workers showed up. Mary was playing the perfect hostess, telling everyone how excited she was to become a grandmother. But then, right as we were about to open the gifts, she made her announcement. She stood up in front of everyone and said that she had an important announcement to make. She said that while she was happy about the baby, she felt it was time for Jack and me to find our own place. She said she didn't want her house turning into a daycare center, and that we had been living off them for too long. She even had the audacity to say that Sarah had offered to help us find an apartment in her building. I was humiliated. Everyone was staring at us. Some of Jack's relatives were nodding in agreement. That's when I lost it. I stood up and told everyone exactly how Mary had been treating me. I told them about how she tried to break up my marriage by constantly bringing Sarah around. I told them about how she threw out my vitamins and made me feel worthless every single day. I told them everything. Mary started crying, saying I was making things up. David tried to defend her, saying I was probably just emotional because of the pregnancy hormones. But my friends had seen enough of Mary's behavior over the past few months to know I was telling the truth. The party ended abruptly after that. People left awkwardly, not knowing what to say. Mary locked herself in her room, and David told us we should be ashamed of ourselves for ruining their reputation. Jack tried to talk to his mom, but she refused to open the door. She just kept screaming that either I leave their house or she would make my life hell. Now Jack is saying I embarrassed his family and that I should apologize to keep the peace. He says we can't afford to move out right now and that I need to learn to get along with his mom. I don't know what to do anymore. Ida for exposing her behavior in front of everyone? Update 1: These past 2 weeks have been absolute hell. After the baby shower incident, things at home got even worse than I could have imagined. Mary started a smear campaign against me that would put political mudslinging to shame. The day after the baby shower, she called every single family member who had attended the party. She told them I was mentally unstable and had been making up stories about her because I was jealous of her relationship with Jack. She claimed that my pregnancy hormones had made me delusional and that she was actually worried about her grandchild's safety with me. Her lie spread like wildfire through the family. Jack's aunts and cousins, who had always been nice to me, started calling and texting me constantly. They told me I needed to apologize to Mary for humiliating her in her own house. Some of them even suggested that I should see a psychiatrist because normal pregnant women don't behave this way. One of Jack's aunts, who is a nurse, had the nerve to tell me that she could recommend a good therapist who specializes in prenatal depression. Mary didn't stop there. She started telling the neighbors that she was worried about me living in her house because I had violent tendencies. She claimed that she had seen me throw things around in frustration, and that she was scared for everyone's safety. This was a complete lie. I had never thrown anything in my life. But people believed her because she was this sweet, concerned mother-in-law who was just trying to protect her family. The worst part was when she contacted my workplace. She somehow got my supervisor's number and called her, expressing concern about my mental state. She suggested that maybe I should take early maternity leave because the stress wasn't good for the baby. My supervisor called me into her office the next day to ask if everything was okay at home. I was mortified. Through all of this, David remained silent. He would just watch everything unfold without saying a word. Sometimes I caught him looking at me with what seemed like pity, but he never stood up for me. He was completely under Mary's control, just like Jack was slowly becoming. Speaking of Jack, his behavior has been the most disappointing of all. Last night, he sat me down for what he called an important conversation. He said that while he understood why I was upset, maybe I had overreacted at the baby shower. He suggested that we should apologize to his mom to keep the peace because we couldn't afford to move out right now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was the same man who had promised to always protect me and our baby. The same man who had witnessed his mother's awful behavior towards me for months. Now he was asking me to apologize to her? When I refused, he got angry and said I was being stubborn and unreasonable. We had a huge fight after that. I told him that if he couldn't stand up for his pregnant wife against his mother's abuse, maybe we needed to rethink our entire marriage. He called me dramatic and said I was trying to make him choose between his mother and me. The fight ended with him storming out to sleep on the couch. This morning, things got even worse. I was using Jack's laptop to check my email because mine was charging, and a message notification popped up. It was from Sarah. I know I shouldn't have, but I clicked on it. What I found made me sick to my stomach. Jack and Sarah had been texting for weeks. Mary had given Sarah our new contact details, and they had been talking behind my back. The messages weren't romantic, but they were definitely inappropriate for a married man. Sarah was sympathizing with Jack about how difficult I was being, and he was agreeing with her. She even offered to help him find an apartment if he needed to get away for a while to clear his head. When I confronted Jack about the messages, he got defensive. He said Sarah was just being a good friend and that I was paranoid. He accused me of snooping through his private conversations and said this was exactly why his mother thought I was unstable. I'm currently writing this from our bedroom, where I've locked myself in. Jack keeps knocking on the door, saying we need to talk, but I can't even look at him right now. I can hear Mary downstairs, probably planning her next move against me. I don't know what to do anymore. Everyone seems to think I'm the problem. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am being oversensitive. But every time I think about apologizing to Mary, I remember all the horrible things she's done and said to me. I remember how she tried to destroy my reputation and turn my husband against me. And I know in my heart that I'm not wrong. I've started looking for apartments online. I can't stay in this house anymore, even if it means struggling financially. My aunt has offered to let me stay with her until I figure things out. I never thought my marriage would come to this, but I need to protect myself and my baby now. Am I wrong for not giving in and apologizing just to keep the peace? Update 2. A lot has happened since my last update. I moved out of Mary and David's house last week and am currently staying with my best friend Amy. The decision wasn't easy, but after what I discovered, I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. After our fight about the Sarah texts, Jack started acting really strange. He would come home late from work, saying he had extra projects to finish. He stopped sharing meals with me and started eating dinner with his parents downstairs instead. When I asked him about it, he said he was trying to keep the peace in the house and that I was making things difficult by refusing to apologize to his mother. One day, while Jack was at work, I overheard Mary on the phone with someone. She was talking about nursery colors and furniture placement. At first, I thought she was talking about plans for our baby, which was weird because she had made it clear she wanted nothing to do with my pregnancy. But then I heard her mention Mark's name, Jack's younger brother. It turns out Mark's wife Lisa is also pregnant, just 2 months behind me. Mary had been planning to turn our room into a nursery for their baby. She had known about Lisa's pregnancy for months but kept it secret from me. She had been planning to kick us out so Mark and Lisa could move in instead. When I confronted Jack about this, he finally admitted that he knew about it too. He said his mother had approached him about it weeks ago. Apparently, Mark was having financial troubles and needed a place to stay. Mary had convinced Jack that it would be better for everyone if we moved out and found our own place. He said he didn't tell me because he didn't want to stress me out during my pregnancy. But that wasn't even the worst part. While I was packing my things to leave, I found a stack of house listings in Jack's drawer. They weren't for us, they were apartments Mary had been looking at for me alone. She had been planning to convince Jack to send me to live by myself while he stayed with them until he figured things out. The final straw came when my friend Melissa sent me pictures of Jack and Sarah having dinner together at a restaurant. They weren't alone, Mary was there too, playing matchmaker as usual. The pictures showed them laughing and looking very comfortable with each other. When I showed the pictures to Jack, he didn't even try to deny it. He said Sarah understood what he was going through and was just being supportive. I packed my bags that night and called Amy. She came to pick me up immediately. Mary actually had the audacity to seem pleased when I was leaving. She told me it was the right decision and that Jack needed time to think about what he really wanted in life. I later found out that Mary had already started renovating our room. She had paint samples on the walls and had ordered furniture for the nursery before I even moved out. She had been so certain that she would succeed in getting rid of me that she didn't even try to hide her plans anymore. The worst part is that some of Jack's relatives are still taking their side. They're saying I abandoned my husband and that I'm tearing the family apart. They don't know or don't care about what Mary was planning, or how Jack betrayed me by keeping it secret. Jack keeps calling and texting, saying he misses me and wants me to come back. He promises things will be different this time. He says we can look for our own place now. But I know it's too late. The trust is gone. How can I ever believe anything he says again? I have my first ultrasound appointment next week. I told Jack about it, but I also told him not to come. I don't want him or his mother there. This should be a happy moment for me, and I won't let them ruin it like they ruined everything else. Amy has been amazing through all of this. She's helping me look for a small apartment I can afford on my own salary. She's also been going with me to all my prenatal checkups. Sometimes I wonder if this is how real family is supposed to be, supporting you unconditionally instead of manipulating and betraying you. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know I made the right choice by leaving. My baby deserves better than a grandmother who schemes behind our backs and a father who can't stand up for what's right. Update 3. I filed for divorce last week, and honestly, it feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. A lot of people might think I'm making a rushed decision, but after everything that's happened, I know it's the right choice for me and my baby. In the past 3 months, I found a small but comfortable apartment and started a new job at a different accounting firm. My new boss is incredibly understanding about my pregnancy and has allowed me to work flexible hours for my prenatal appointments. The pay is slightly better too, which helps with the upcoming baby expenses. Jack didn't take the divorce papers well. He showed up at my apartment unannounced, begging me to reconsider. He said he had finally found us a house and that we could move in right away. He promised he would set boundaries with his mother and that things would be different this time. But it was too late. The trust was gone, and I couldn't believe his promises anymore. I found out through mutual friends that Mary and Sarah had been spending a lot of time at the house since I left. Sarah apparently helps Mary with her gardening now, something Mary always complained I never did. They even went on a weekend trip together, just the three of them, Mary, Jack, and Sarah. It's like they're living the life Mary always wanted, with Sarah playing the role of the perfect daughter-in-law. The most surprising thing that happened was David reaching out to me. He came to my office one day and apologized for not standing up for me. He said he knew Mary's behavior was wrong, but he had been too much of a coward to say anything. He even offered to help me financially with the baby, but I declined. I appreciated his apology, but it was too little, too late. Mark and Lisa did end up moving in with Mary and David. Our old room is now a nursery, painted in the exact colors I had once mentioned I liked for our baby's room. Mary got everything she wanted, her perfect son back, probably Sarah too, and the daughter-in-law she always preferred living in her house. My aunt has been my rock through all of this. She's helping me prepare for the baby and has been coming with me to my appointments. I found out I'm having a little girl, and honestly, that makes me even more certain about my decision to leave. I don't want my daughter growing up thinking it's okay for anyone to treat her the way Mary treated me, or that it's acceptable for a man to betray her the way Jack did. I've blocked Jack, Mary, and everyone else from their family on all social media. Some of Jack's relatives still try to reach out, telling me I'm being too harsh and that family should stick together. But they're wrong. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away from toxic people, even if they're family. I know the road ahead won't be easy. Being a single mom wasn't part of my plan, but neither was having in-laws who would try to destroy me. I'm stronger now, and I know I made the right choice. My daughter will grow up knowing her worth, and she'll never have to deal with the kind of manipulation and betrayal I experienced. Sometimes I think about how different things could have been if Jack had just stood up to his mother, or if Mary had accepted me as her daughter-in-law. But dwelling on what-ifs won't change anything. I'm focusing on my future now, my baby, my new job, and my peace of mind. Some people might call me harsh or stubborn, but I call it self-preservation.